What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for the recap of UFC 294. First and foremost, you guys know I'm always excited to announce it was another profitable event when that is the case, and that was the case here. Essentially, we have a clean sweep, but I will let you guys know the plays that we targeted because there were some issues. We had some weird circumstances with a couple of fights, and unfortunately for me, I did have some money intertwined in some of those fights. You guys probably know which ones we're referring to here. So we'll go over everything, but essentially it was a clean sweep and we profit roughly 6 units on the card, just under 6 units on the card. Okay, so don't let my vibes lead you to think it was a bad night betting because it was a great night betting. But you know what? UFC 294 was a card that was so highly anticipated, and obviously leading up to the card, we lose the initial main event and co-main event fights. We have these newly added matchups. We have two of the all-time greats stepping in on short notice, which, of course, we're excited to see them perform, in Kamaru Usman and in Alexander Volkanovski. But at the end of the day, man, they're taking the fights on short notice, and it did take a little bit of the energy out of this card, and I felt that lack of energy that we lost there, or excuse me, that energy that we lost there, it kind of carried over into the card because this card played out funky, and I just think that this card could have played out much better overall. Okay, so listen, in the first fight, we had the UFC newcomer Shera Magomedov taking on Bruno Silva. This was a very exciting fight. You guys know I was hyped for this, especially as the first fight of an event. I mean, this is a fight that could be on a main card, on even some of the most stacked of cards. What an exciting matchup this was. We know Bruno Silva's always a very tough fighter, but at the end of the day, Magomedov was too much. Silva went to the grappling as we thought that he may have throughout the fight at some point in time if Magomedov was just getting the better of the striking. And he did do that. But at the end of the day, I still felt that Magomedov, I felt that he won every round. I heard some people saying Bruno Silva should have took the second or third rounds. I don't know. I think Magomedov was the fighter inflicting the damage. He was striking off of his back, and he was landing some solid shots there. And I think that he deserved to win every round. I was pretty impressed with him. He definitely has to fine-tune his grappling. Otherwise, he's going to fall short to the top fighters in the division that could really mix in their wrestling. A guy like Bo Nickel. I know Bo Nickel's still so green. If Bo Nickel avoids that early knockout, I think a guy like Bo Nickel would ragdoll Magomedov. Okay, so you guys know I'm always preaching about Nickel. Time will tell with him, but you get high caliber wrestlers in the division, which I know this division doesn't have a lot of great wrestlers and grapplers, but you get those fighters matched up against Magomedov right now, and I think he's going to take some L's. The takedown defense is lacking, but check this out. I'm going to do some scattered matchmaking throughout this card. This is a fight. This is a fighter I definitely want to talk about which fight should be next for him. And I'm working on a post on Instagram for this right now. How about Shera Magomedov versus Michel Pereira? Can you imagine the fireworks that we would see in the cage there? Striker versus striker matchup. Give Magomedov some more time to work on his takedown defense and his grappling. He's a great addition to the division. And you guys know Pereira is on fire right now. As he's just coming off a very big win over Andre Petroski. That's the fight that I want to see there. All right, so big win there for Magomedov. He settled almost as a 3-1 favorite. No action for me there. I did contemplate it, but stayed away from that. Victoria Dudikova takes out Jin Yufrey. Victoria Dudikova was very weird, right? She was talking about how she had staph all over her crotch area and stuff, and her bottom and her butt and all that. She talked about that after the fight. I was kind of in agreement with Dana White said, if you're going to keep that under wraps all the way leading up to the fight, keep that under wraps after, because I was trying to eat a little meal as I'm listening to that, and it was kind of spoiling my appetite there. All right, so but she is a very young and promising fighter. Hopefully, in all seriousness, that she heals up there and she comes back strong, and there'll be some fun matchups for her in the future. Muhammad Naimov defeats Nathaniel Wood. A little upset with myself here. I probably should have been a little bit more, a little bit more eager to pick some dogs, even though we did very solid on this card. But you guys know I mentioned very clearly that the value was all over Muhammad Naimov in this matchup here. Nathaniel Wood should have never been the favorite that he was going into this card. I just didn't really want to target this play, and it was a mistake on my part. I should have had some action on Naimov, and I should have picked him to win this fight, especially after we saw them at the stare downs and you saw the size advantage Naimov have. Naimov also having some success with the grappling as well, which I thought he would really result more to the striking, but he was mixing things up. And listen, Naimov, you can call him a dirty fighter. He went to some tactics to make sure he got the job done. You saw him grabbing Nathaniel Wood's glove, sticking his fingers completely in the glove as Nathaniel Wood was raining that ground and pound at the end of the third round. Listen, Wood wants to make a post and complain about it. If a fighter does that type of stuff, man, you just got to do that type of stuff back, man. You got to do it back. That's how I look at it. Yes, the ref should have been doing a better job in the cage, but still, don't sit back and have that passive style, man. Start doing some crazy stuff, and then that will really put an emphasis on the tactics that he was doing. Grabbing the cage, sticking his fingers in the glove, the 2 low blows. You know what? Give him a low blow back. All right. Do something wild in there too, and that will really make the ref have to take control of the fight there. But Naimov gets the job done, and again, we talked about that value, so maybe some of you guys targeted that play. Another fight that we said very clearly, run the tape back, the value was Mike Breeden, as he was an underdog against Anshul Jobli. We edged Jobli to win the fight, but he was another very big favorite on this card. I'm a little upset I didn't target the value odds on Breeden. He got that knockout in the third round. Breeden's obviously not the greatest of fighters, but he does have some striking abilities. He's a crafty veteran. I don't really know if he's a UFC caliber fighter. The case with this fight is, if you guys aren't catching on, and it's a good thing. The UFC was pushing Jubli to represent India in the octagon. You guys know that they have a massive population over there, so many young men, and we want to push the sport in that country. And Jubli is the head of the class there, so it's understandable they try to match him up with Breeden, try to get him an easy W. And look, it's not the case. Jubilee's not on the level. We talked about the victory that he had in his last fight to win the road to UFC. It was against a guy that had absolutely no takedown defense. He was massively undersized, this Indonesian striker, Muay Thai fighter. So, I mean, Mike Breeden's a legit MMA fighter, okay? Maybe not a legit UFC fighter, but a legit American MMA fighter, and we saw him get the knockout there, okay? Cedricus Dumas defeats Abu Azatar. Somewhat of a close match there. Dumas using some grappling and whatnot. Azatar was one of the fights that I picked incorrectly where I went after the dog there. And I thought that was a little bit of a toss-up. I had question marks on Dumas. Dumas dug deep. He took 2 of the 3 rounds. And Azatar dropped him, hurt him at one point in time. Close fight, but Dumas does enough to get the job done for sure. And then we had some official action taking place here, okay? So remember I told you guys there was some funky stuff going on. Just to give you some background, I had 2 8-unit max plays on this card. They were both separate 2-team parlays, okay? 2-team parlays, both of them were 8 units. Now, the first one was a parlay that started off with Javid Basharat. He won the first round pretty easily. It was somewhat close, but he took the first round 100%, not even a question. I liked the way that the fight was taking place, kind of a slow-paced fight, little pitter-patters back and forth. Basharat's getting the better with the kicks. Had a little takedown there. I thought that he would have got this fight down to the mat and used more of his jiu-jitsu. You guys know what happened. He lands that inside leg kick up, in the upper thigh. I'm not going to sit here and say it didn't hit. Obviously, it probably did. I heard Henry was throwing up and whatnot, but it was weird. It didn't look like it hit that flush, but again, who knows what happened there? Could have grazed, could have pinched the corner of his nut or something. You heard the doctor saying it didn't look like it hit, because it didn't look like it hit really on tape, but you just never know. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say that. I know Javad Basharat was on Instagram saying that he really feels strongly it didn't hit him as a low blow, and Henry maybe just wanted to get out of the cage. Maybe he felt that he was going to be losing the fight, and he would have been cut from the UFC most likely if he loses this fight. Now he probably gets another opportunity, gets a paycheck there, gets one more UFC paycheck moving forward. Maybe he gets an easier opponent, because Javid is the real deal. He's a very solid fighter. And again, so some awkwardness there. Essentially, that fight never happens as far as my bet goes. And I caught him at a very high line, but I wanted to mix him in with something else. I got him at minus 535. I felt very confident he would have won, and he would have won that fight. Okay, so then we had Trevor Peek getting the UD over Muhammad Yahya. That was fun for me to watch. You guys know I'm a big fan of Trevor Peeks. He's a fun fighter. Fought a little bit more of a cerebral fight, but they picked the pace up late and landed some big shots. We talked about the fact that Muhammad Yahya was probably just getting this opportunity because he's from the area over there. They wanted to give him an opportunity fighting in his homeland and having the crowd behind him, and it would have been a fun matchup maybe, when you're in there with a guy like Trevor Peek. But Yahya really didn't bring the fight nearly as much as I thought that he should have or could have. I think he was a little intimidated by Peek's energy. Peek looked good, and Peek's just such a fun fighter to watch, man. All right, so now we had some more official action taking place here. I have a lot to talk about when it comes to this fight here too. Muhammad Makayev was one of my other legs. Now, Muhammad Makayev was one of my other legs in the other parlay, okay? So we're talking about the first fight of the other 8-unit max play. Now, two of the judges here had Tim Elliott winning rounds 1 and 2. I was very, very surprised to see that. Obviously, it didn't matter because Makayev wins via decision. If you take a look at the scorecards from the majority of the media, including myself, throw me in there, I did not have Elliott winning those rounds. They were close. You know, he was throwing up some nasty submission attempts. Look at the difference in strikes that were landed throughout the fight. I mean, you had Makayev landing 118 strikes compared to 71 strikes of Elliott. You had Muhammad Makayev with 8 minutes and 24 seconds of control time. And I know Tim Elliott threw some nasty sub attempts out there, but how about the fact Makayev was defending all of them, slamming Elliott on his head. Elliott even admitted in between rounds that he was basically flash KO'd for a second. He was almost out of it. I mean, you have to give those rounds to Makayev. He's on top and he's controlling the fight and he's landing some ground and pound a little here and there. He was in control. Doesn't matter anyway. Pulls off a very, very slick arm triangle choke there. You know, he's just, he's a young stud, still so young, and he has a lot of room for growth, obviously, and he has a very promising future in the flyweight division. So I did grab Muhammad Makayev at a minus 450 line. Okay, we'll get to the other leg there in a second. But now we're going to get to this next fight here, which was the first fight of the main card. And I did not have to stress here. I definitely had some official action on Said Nurmagomedov over Muin Gafurov, the Tajik fighter. Now, this was my favorite target of the night. I did not understand why Said Nurmagomedov was a minus 225 favorite. I thought that he should have been up there with all the other huge favorites on this card. I thought he should have been a minus 450, minus 500. Okay, I don't know what was going on there. All right, Gafurov, I mean, you know, slick little striker. He was undersized. I don't know why people are sleeping on Said Nurmagomedov because he is an absolute stud. He can strike. He has submission skills. Pulls off that slick guillotine choke in the first. He's a nasty striker. I'm very high on him. You guys know I thought that he won his last fight against Jonathan Martinez, and understand Jonathan Martinez is a stud. So right now, Said Nurmagomedov, in my opinion, should be on a 6 fight winning streak dating back to his loss in 2019 against the more primed Raoni Barcelos back in the day. He learned from that loss. You know, good victories too over Cody Stamann, Douglas Silva de Andrade, Said Yakov, Kakrakhmanov, an underrated fighter. Okay, he's a stud, and I loved the line that we had there. But check it out now. That Said Nurmagomedov play essentially is just an 8-unit max play on Said Nurmagomedov at minus 225 because the Javid play scratched off the card, okay? So understand that both my two teams ended up turning into just straight money line plays on one fighter. In the next fight, Ikram Aliskerov gets the flying knee that's landed there, and Warley Alves follows him up, finishes him up there. He's an absolute stud. First round finish. You know, I got a fight that I would like to see with Ikram. There's already been some talks about him fighting a top 15 middleweight fighter, and I think that is the route to go with him. He's a very, very polished fighter, and no need to really play with him and get him fighting some of the top guys because he's going to whoop a lot of those guys up, and maybe we see him versus Khamzat down the line. Maybe we see a rematch, but you know, in the meantime, you know, I want to match him up with maybe Jack Hermanson. I think that's a fight that makes some sense. A long time UFC fighter, a very crafty veteran. He gets a victory over a big name like that, and you know, then you could really start to talk about some big fights for him. Maybe a Marvin Vettori, I don't know, something like that. Maybe I know Jared Cannonier, I believe, just pulled out of his fight with Roman Dolidze. So Roman Dolidze is another fighter that's looking for a matchup right now. Maybe Ikram steps in on short notice. That would be a great match. Roman Dolidze right now ranked number 7th on Tapology's worldwide middleweight rankings. And that would be a nice step there for Ikram. And Ikram can more than hold his own in that fight. That'd be a high caliber fight. All right. Then we're talking about the last action that I had tied up in this card. You guys know I've been preaching it for a long time, so I was not going to be shy to have some action on him. Magomed Ankalaev is the uncrowned light heavyweight champ. It is just... the route that he's going to get this belt is ridiculous. You know, and I'm going to hold him to the fire here because obviously he landed a knee, you know, an illegal knee to Johnny Walker, and he was very stupid for doing it. But let's be clear, he was dictating the distance so well. Obviously, the fight didn't take place for that long. You know, just almost finishing the first round, but you know, was controlling Johnny Walker, closed the distance. You know, he has that grappling ability. He's a very underrated striker. He's very defensively sound. I don't think that Johnny Walker was going to land that big shot, and I think eventually Magomed was going to get that finish on him. Obviously, you know, I'm sitting here playing Monday quarterback and whatnot, but I was very pleased with what I was seeing from Magomed until he landed that knee. And remember, he was controlling Walker up against the cage, landing some shots there. But what a bonehead move. And then what an unfortunate situation. This stupid doctor, man. Johnny Walker kind of said it as a joke, essentially, that, he's in the desert when he was asked where he was. And, the doctor's trying to get slick, probably felt insulted. He's on his high horse and stops the fight immediately. That was messed up. Fight should have continued. Johnny Walker was good to go. And then you had the whole circus taking place in the cage. And I want to see that fight immediately rebooked. I think that's the route to go. And then, it was what it was. So essentially, again, that Khamzat Chimaev, that Magomed Ankalaev play that I had on him just turned out to be a straight up 8-unit max play of Muhammad Mokaev there that we cashed in on. Again, a clean sweep. Was what it was. We profited just under 6 units on the card. Don't take that lightly. I know I put a lot of units up on this card, but I'm very happy to bring almost 6 units in on any card. That's a lot of profit for me there, so very happy on that. This was a very unorthodox type of card, a lot of heavy favorites. That's the route I went. I felt it was very safe, and it came through. All right, Khamzat Chimaev gets the majority decision over Kamaru Usman, basically 10-8ing Usman in that first round, slowing down. He's saying he broke his hand in the first round. I had Khamzat Chimaev still winning every round of this fight, although rounds 2 and 3 are very close, and you could have gave Usman either the second or the third. How did you guys have this fight playing out? And how about Chimaev with the post-fight speech? I look at him so differently, and not necessarily in a good or bad way. Just he has a 3-month-old son now. It seems like he's becoming a more easygoing guy. Had the deep thoughts there in the end. He said some words that I really never thought he would say. Thought he was a little bit, I won't go too deep into that. Again, not a bad or a good thing, but I didn't think he would be saying some of the stuff he was saying. Respect to him. Really respect his post-fight speech. And, I think that, well, it is what it is. He's going to get that shot against Sean Strickland. That's going to be a fun fight. But I want to see the crazy Khamzat Chimaev. I want to see the intense Khamzat Chimaev. I'm not really feeling this more, slow-paced, if you will, or more easygoing Khamzat Chimaev, all right? So, and then we had Alexander Volkanovski getting finished up in the first round, which was the perfect way to end this card. No action at all, but you guys know I am saying that sarcastically. You guys know I'm a huge Alexander Volkanovski fan. Wanted to see this fight play out longer, but you got to give props to Islam Makhachev. Lands a beautiful head kick. What a beautiful shot that was. Set it up amazingly, and he's an absolute stud. And he's going to go down. If he continues this up, he's going to go down as one of the best fighters to have ever done it. Islam is really doing his thing right now. What a shame for him that he took that sloppy knockout loss way back in the day when he was finished by Adriano Martins back in the first round. Made a stupid mistake there. If he doesn't get caught with that, he dominates that fight. And real quick, as we wrap this card up, I'll give you some interesting information on that fight that he took, that loss that he took. I saw some recent content coming out about that, where you saw Khabib's dad mentioning how he kind of got in an argument with Javier Mendez, as he did not want Islam to trade with him in the first round, but Javier Mendez kind of talked them into it. I think Khabib kind of agreed to it. Islam wanted to. They felt comfortable enough that he wanted to exchange with Adrian Martins in the first round, then go to the grappling, which in retrospect was a horrible decision. Should have went straight to the grappling. But, if he doesn't take that loss, there's no blemish on his resume right now. And he would be 26-0, and he would be, he still is like that Khabib type of fighter, man. He's still a great fighter, but he made one big-time error, man. If you haven't seen that fight, go look it up, where he was starched. But big respect to Makhachev. He's just a robot, man. The guy is just an absolute stud. All right, guys, so that's the recap of UFC 294, another profitable night, profiting roughly 5.82 units, and it was a good night. I'm not going to sit here and complain, but I did feel that this card just didn't play out. It was a good day here in America. It was an early card, but I didn't feel like this card played out the way that I wanted to. Obviously, just the Magomed fight was disappointing, how that stopped early, and just, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Comment below. Let me know what plays you targeted, how'd you guys did overall. Appreciate you guys. And remember, no fights taking place this upcoming weekend. Taking place the following weekend, we have Jelton Almeida and Derek Lewis, which will be a good one. I'll have that video up very, very soon. All right, guys, signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.